Hello, the Pioneer viewers. We are in front of you today with our daily map report. We will continue to analyze the developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war, which has occupied the world's agenda for nearly 2 years with a map. According to the latest reports, the Ukrainian army has intensified its counterattack operations with the Zaporizhia front line and the Kherson front line. On the other hand, the Russian army has been conducting operations on the Donetsk front for 2 weeks. We are talking about the operations of the Russian army on the Donetsk front. However, although these operations have been going on for 2 weeks, the Russian army is still far from its targets. At many points, the Ukrainian defense continues to resist. One of the main goals of the Russian assault forces was to capture Avdiivka with a quick attack. However, this quick attack plan did not work. Ukrainian forces repelled Russian attacks with all their might. So what is the latest situation on the front line? What is happening on the Donetsk front line? Let's take a look at the developments together. As the Pioneer, we try to provide you with the most detailed information about the Russian-Ukrainian war, with both our map reports and reports on the agenda. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. You can also support me and my team by using the super thanks button under our videos. Let's start if you're ready. The Pioneer reports. Today we start with the Kherson front line. The region has become quite active in recent days. We have discussed this issue in our previous map reports and in our reports on the agenda. Now let's examine in more detail. First, let's see the Kherson front line on the map. As you can see on the map, the Kherson front line is located very close to Crimean Peninsula, which is the main target of the Ukrainian army. Let's make a note of this. This is the most important information we need to keep in mind about the Kherson front line. Because as you know, in the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, both armies have set the Crimean Peninsula as their target. While the Russian armed forces want to ensure their permanence in this region, the Ukrainian army wants to regain its occupied territories, namely the Crimean Peninsula. When we look at the region now, we see that the Ukrainian army has established a small area of dominance on the eastern bank of the Dnieper River. The last expansion in the region took place recently with the successful operation of the Ukrainian Naval Special Forces in the Poma region at night. Ukrainian troops entered the area and further deepened the Ukrainian army's presence on the eastern bank of the Dnieper River. The Ukrainian Naval Special Forces here are quite remarkable. These are troops trained by the British Royal Marines. We see that the Ukrainian soldiers trained by the West have a clear superiority over the Russian army. It is also necessary to mention the following. As you know, many pilots in the Ukrainian army have also received the Western trainings for the F-16 fighter jets. F-16s are not yet actively used on the battlefield. However, one day they will be used. From this point of view, we can also state that the Ukrainian army will have a great superiority, especially in Pozhanovka and the Podstepnoye region. Ukrainian artillery units are trying to slow down the attacks of the Russian army by carrying out intense attacks so that Ukrainian troops can establish defensive fortifications. While the Ukrainian army's presence in this region is gradually gaining depth, the Russian Air Force and Russian artillery units are trying to prevent this. According to the latest reports, the Russian Air Force and Russian artillery targeted Ukrainian positions in Kherson, Avdiivka, Penetoprovsky, Novotynivka, and Berlivka. Ukrainian artillery responded to these attacks by striking Russian positions in Galaya, Priston, Alyoshki, Cossack camps, and Kerinki, Krasnaka, Dnieproyani, Novaya Kakhovka, and Kakhovka. Let's continue by analyzing the latest developments in the Robertny sector of the Zaporizhia front line. According to the latest reports, Russian troops have launched an offensive to repel Ukrainian troops in Robertny. Ukrainian defense forces are quite successful. Russian troops were supported by long-range artillery during the attacks launched from the west. Despite this, the Russian army could not gain superiority over the Ukrainian army and had to retreat. It is also reported by local sources that Russian troops suffered heavy losses during these attacks. We are facing a similar situation in Novopokrovka and Verbov. In this region, Russian troops supported by long-range artillery tried to force the Ukrainian army out of its positions. However, this result was negative. Ukrainian positions in the area remain largely intact. We see that the Ukrainian army did not take any offensive actions during these attacks. You remember this situation, don't you? It has happened many times before. The Ukrainian army takes strong defense positions when the Russian army starts to attack. Meanwhile, the Russian army wears out during these attacks and retreats. This created space for the Ukrainian army to advance. A similar situation emerged again in this region. The Ukrainian army is waiting for the Russian army to get tired. When the Russian army gets tired, Ukrainian troops can carry out a large-scale attack. Let's talk about artillery activity in the area. Ukrainian positions in Malaya, Shchrobyaki and Shurbyaki, Novoandriivka and Novodanilovka and Malaya Tokmakta were hit by Russian artillery. In turn, Ukrainian artillery targeted Russian positions in Nestryanka, Kopani, Rivne, Salaya Balka, Ichenko, Novopokrovka and Novofedorovka. Now we will continue by analyzing the developments on the Donetsk front line. As you know, Ukrainian troops are fighting a major defensive battle in this region. The Russian army launched a very strong offensive on the Donetsk front line centered on Avdiivka. This attack was also supported by the Russian Air Force. For about 2 weeks, the Russian army has been attacking the region. However, according to the expectations of the Russian command, the progress of the Russian army remained quite low. Moreover, despite this low progress, there were quite a lot of casualties. Russian troops are still trying to continue the attacks. However, Ukrainian defense forces are quite prepared. According to the latest reports, the Russian army is conducting large-scale attacks in south of Avdiivka region. In addition, there are intense Russian attacks not only in the south but also at the east of Avdiivka. So far, no progress of the Russian army has been recorded. The Ukrainian army's defense forces remain largely intact. Let's talk about artillery activity in the region. According to the latest reports, the artillery activity of the Russian artillery was largely in Avdiivka. Ukrainian artillery hit Krasnohorivka and Donetsk. There is also a little activity on the Luhansk front line. According to the latest reports, Russian troops tried to break through the Ukrainian defenses near Makiivka and Nadezhda. However, they made no progress. Ukrainian defenses are holding their positions. What do you think? Do you think the Ukrainian army will continue to advance in the Kherson region? How do you assess the successes of the Ukrainian army in Kherson? Do you think these attacks will continue? What do you think about the fact that the Russian army has not achieved the desired successes for 2 weeks? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.